Good morning, students. Today we are going to discuss structuralism. So whenever we start theory structuralism, that is learned by many other critics, including all these new critics and the new critics, those who are pretending. This structuralism talks about that a text has been made by the set structure, like a society has been made of the structure. So when you dissect the structure, when you try to know everything which has been based on that text, we come to know about the real meaning that does not lie in the text, the real meaning that becomes the task of the critic to decipher. Now, we're going to start with structuralism, but before we go to talk about structuralism, all we need is to know about the new criticism and new critics. So friends, as you must be knowing, whenever we talk about Victorian criticism, we talk about Victorian works, we talk about Elizabethan works, Elizabethan dramas, we are concerned about their writers. Whenever we try to decode their messages, we can take the example of Thomas Hardy, Jude the Obscure. So, if we talk about like Hardy's books, Jude the Obscure, many other books, women character has been portrayed mercilessly. They have been shown as the adulterous nature. So, if we relate that all the Hardy's women characters are adulterers, are bad by nature, because Hardy himself had a bad married life, that would cause traditional criticism. It used to be called traditional criticism because the book or the content of the book or the message that was directed to the readers, it was related to the writer's personality, his atmosphere, the circumstances of the state, like Alexander Pope. He had a hunchback, did not have a happy life, his disturbed childhood made him a kind of writer who used to write bitter satires or juvenile satires. So in the 1920s, in the 1940s, in 1920s in Britain, 1940s in America, there were few writers, those who broke this myth and reacted against the set pattern of traditional criticism. These writers were Clint Brooks, William Emerson, and I. Richards. I. Richards became the first person to have the experiment. He gave few papers of poetry to students without the name and the narrator. There was no message about the writer, there was no mentioning of the writer's name or any kind of age it belonged. All students were given the papers only. This paper had only the poetry. In short, they had the text without any relation of the author. When he got the idea, when the students replied, they submitted their answers and they replied their views, the views came, he realized that maximum students had the same idea about the poetry and that was not biased by the writer's biography, writer's personal life. So he became the father of this new criticism, Clint Brooks, William Emerson. They denied that author has no importance once the book has been published. So once the book has been published, it has become a text. There is no importance of the role of the author. Now, how to decode the meaning? Why it is against? For example, in Britain, when these writers they were publishing their poetry, we got a book called Verbal Icon. Verbal Icon, there was a term, intentional fallacy. Intentional fallacy. These new critics focus on that whenever we try to decode the meaning on the base of author, whenever we try to dissect the meaning that is directly related to the author, we are maximum falling this intentional fallacy or we become the victim of intentional fallacy. How? For example, intentional fallacy means when a writer's message is not taken, is not learned, is not decoded by the reader. So if a writer has to say something, if a writer has fixed his book with a particular message and the reader is not able to get that message, so this is called intentional fallacy. When the writer has a message and reader is not able to decode. Why? Because the reader thinks that writer's biography will definitely have an effect with the text. So we can also believe in the theory that given by John Cates, predictive capability, or the same theory termed as dissociation of sensibility and theory of personality. A writer can feel anything and can write. It is not a proof, it is not a scientific proof that a writer, whenever he writes, has his own personality in the book. So this criticism, new criticism and new critics are the two names of stream theory that deny the effect of the author in the text. It became American. This new criticism is an American theory.